Man, Mr. Terrific Year One, number two is here with a special appearance by the Spectre. And man, what an interesting dialogue between Mr. Terrific and the Spectre. You already know what time it is. Yo, what are we waiting on? Roll that intro, cuz. You already know what time it is. What's going on, Geek Corner? This is your boy, Earth Matt the Mad Scientist. Welcome back to Comic Book Declassified, man. Ready to jump into some Mr. Terrific Year One, number two. And one thing I really have to say is this artwork, man. This artwork is phenomenal. But the unique thing about this artwork is that in the first few pages of this comic, you see a more modern art style, right? And then when you go further into the comic, you see a different art style that's a little bit more retro, a little bit more 80s-ish. Now, that might not be a lot of people's cup of tea, but it is my cup of tea because it shows two different timelines. Because you see what Mr. Terrific is in this day and age, and then you see what got him to the point of becoming Mr. Terrific. So what we're going to do here, we're going to focus on why he calls himself the third smartest man and what drove him to be Mr. Terrific. Now, as you see in the previous issue, Dre was shot, but we didn't know the fate of Dre. We don't know what happened to him. But in issue 2, we learned that Dre didn't make it. And that left a serious toll on Mike Holt's life, because if you think about it, he lost his wife, his unborn child, and not only that, the person that kept him together, that kept him from falling into pieces, the person that kept him focused, gets murdered right in front of him. So he literally has no one else to live for. So what does he do in this situation? He decides to end it all. Like, he really wants to end his own life, but he is interrupted by the Spectre. And the Spectre says, listen, be still, Hope. And some call me a demon. Others call me an angel. You may call me the Spectre. Now, the interesting thing about this is that what you need to know about Mike Holt is that he is a known atheist. Like, he doesn't believe in God. He doesn't believe in Jesus Christ. He doesn't believe in religion. The only thing he really does believe in is science. So what makes this thing is interesting is that the Spectre is known to be the wrath of God. Like, he is that wrath in physical form. And even still, with it looking him right in the face, he's literally tells him, I don't believe in God. And Spectre says, and yet I am here. Your belief matters not. And he quickly changes the subject, like, why are you here? He said, there are moments in time when one decision shifts the equilibrium of the universe. This is one of those moments. And Holt, again, in despair, because he really has nothing to lose, he said, listen, I'm insignificant to the universe, a speck of stardust. And Spectre goes on to say, a trillion specks of stardust. If one explodes, it could set off a chain reaction. You are only as insignificant as you believe yourself to be. And he says, which brings us here to the ledge between life and death. What has brought you to the point of laying down this mortal coil? He says, everything I cared about is gone, and it's all on me. He says, guilt is like a shadow. It is cast when the light finds your pain. What is your pain, Michael Holt? And in this panel, you do see a relationship between Dre, Dingle, Holt, and Jefferson Pierce. Now, Jefferson Pierce, also known as Black Lightning. Now, it's been shown in previous comics like Justice League and JSA and stuff like that, that there was a relationship between, Black Lightning and Mr. Terrific. But you go further back and how far back they go. Like, they ran track together, they played sports together, they grew up together, they've been in the trenches together. So that what makes this even more interesting. So it goes on to say, you know what? I'm done talking to a spirit I don't even believe in. Still yet, this man is right here in front of you, bro. He is right in front of you. Like, I don't know what's this going to take for you not to believe, but he's right there in front of him. He says, I'm done talking to a spirit I don't even believe in. You aren't here. You're just my mind trying to make sense of the trauma. He's like, you don't believe? And yet you gaze up at a Colossus. Does this not feel real? He was like, no, I'm a scientist and you're just my subconscious. If you are a god, prove it. Let me talk to Paula or let me die in peace. He's like, I am not God. I am God's wrath. If you want to die, so be it. But you have no peace. You will have no peace. And this where you find out why he calls himself the smartest man, because you go deeper dive into his subconscious, into his relationship with Paula. And he says, we built whole ancient industries together from the ground up. I concentrated on government contracts, next level drones, surveillance and camouflage, that type of thing. But Paula was the real genius. I used to tell people I was the world's third smartest man because she was numbers 1 and 2. Her work centered on quantum physics, crazy futuristic tech. Holt Industries was our life. And then Paula got pregnant. And he was like, there. Spader's like, yes, that's it. That's the thing. This is your defining pain. But why? A new life is to be celebrated. And he goes on to say, you don't understand. Holt Industries was our baby. We'd agreed we wanted to wait to have kids, but I wasn't sure I wanted to have them at all. And suddenly I didn't have a choice. Paula had been working on a theoretical power source that gathered ambient radiation and turned it into cheap power. It could have changed the world, but suddenly she told me she couldn't get it to come together. So then I started tinkering with the project she'd abandoned, and I thought maybe I could help figure it out, get her excited about it again. And she didn't want to talk about it. And Spectre goes on to say, like, this is the valley of the shadow of death, Michael Holt. You may stay here if you choose and be unknown to yourself and lost to the world. But who will speak for Paula or Dre? Walk through this and be reborn. And it goes on to say, I missed an appointment and she was furious. I thought if I could just show her what I was working on, she'd understand. I was taking her work to the next level. And she walked out of the lab and the space between us was as wide as a Grand Canyon. I was determined to fix it. A few days later, they were gone. And so was I. My anchor was gone. And I couldn't even think about the baby. I wasn't sure I was ready to be a father, but when I no longer had him, it was all I wanted. Afterward, I couldn't keep it together. I sold the company and never looked back until Dre started telling me about people getting sick around the bottoms just after Athena Prescott announced her Nexus engine. So from that standpoint, like Spectre here is the voice of reason. And from that point, you see Spectre turns himself into Jim Corrigan, host of the Spectre. He like, nice to meet you. Oh, Ghostface doesn't have friends, but I do. And one of them, Terry Sloan, stood on this very same bridge. And from that standpoint, he talks about the original Mr. Terrific. Now, if you really go back and look at the Mr. Terrific of old, and this is talking like the golden age of DC Comics, like, you know, where the real colorful gear, the superhero stuff. So, I mean, just be clear about it. This is not the best superhero costume for Mr. Terrific.
That was 2 packs of ass.
But Jim basically tells Mike, like, listen, like, Terry Sloan was really good at what he did, and he always fought for the little guy. He always was the type that fought for fair play. Now he's street level, and basically he says, you want me to be a superhero? Yeah, no. I happen to know a hero, and they're not helping the little guy. They're fighting weird monsters in space. No, thank you. And Jim says, sometimes it's monsters in space, yeah, but sometimes they're like Terry Sloan fighting for the little guy. Who's going to stand up for the people of the bottoms? Who's going to make sure they get a fair shake? And he says, look, sudden death might be a part of your life, like flying, running faster than sound, bending steel with your bare hands, but that's not my life. It has nothing to do with me. And he says, Mr. Terrific served a purpose, and that purpose isn't filled by a Superman or a Batman or even the Spectre. He worked at the street level. And he says, I'm just a man. But Jim says, listen, so was Terry Sloan. But the thing is with Mike is Mike has genius. Like he is super, super smart and one of the smartest characters in DC. And from that standpoint of the conversation that they had, he's like, listen, I'm gonna take you back to the bridge. If you decide to jump, that's on you. But I've done my due diligence. I've done talk to you. Now it's your choice. Now, if you put this like in real life terms, like on a religious standpoint, like one thing that God gives you is free will, right? He gives you the freedom of choice. So yes, he guides you into the direction like, listen, if you go through door A, this is what happens. If you go through door B, this is what happens. I'm not going to tell you which door to go to, but it is your choice to make. Even with Mike Hope being an atheist, he has a choice to make, and he chose the right door. So he starts to research the original Mr. Terrific, and he goes to Dre's funeral, and there he has a conversation with Jefferson Pierce. He says, are we going to talk, or are you going to keep ducking me? He says, I'm not ducking you, Jeff. My best friend died. Everything isn't about you. He's like, well, he's was my friend too, and he didn't just die, he was murdered. Yeah, I know. And he didn't say anything to you. And at that point, Jefferson gets a call. He said, listen, I gotta go. I got league business. And he said, listen, Mike, I'm sorry for this tension between us, but at some point, bruh, we got to get past it. Even here, today of all days, he says, go save the world, Jeff. I'll handle this. And he says, I'll be back. And when I find the people responsible, I'm bringing hell with me. And from that last panel, he says, not if I find them first. And you see the first costume that Mike Holt wears as Mr. Terrific with the fair play on the back, holding the basketball with the red sunglasses, man. I am super, super stoked about that, man. So Mr. Terrific #2 year one is very, very good. Now, I did miss some key parts in this, like what happens with Athena, because Athena actually is working for someone else, and that someone else is some dark forces, and that someone else is not a slow leak whatsoever. And you're asking the question, why would I leave this out? Because I want you guys to go out to your nearest comic book store and get yourself a physical copy of Mr. Terrific year one, man. This issue is a can't miss. This is issue one. Now, if it just so happened to be sold out of the physical copies, the A covers, the variant covers, and all that, listen, all you got to do is download the Kindle app and get yourself some Comixology Unlimited and buy yourself a digital copy of Mr. Terrific year one. Now, I know you saw some things in the description below, and if you stuck around this long, obviously you really did like what we was talking about here of Mr. Terrific year one. All you gotta do is hit that like and hit that subscribe button and that notification bell. And when I mean notification bell, get notified on all of our content, not just some of it. Because if you do some of the content, it's not going to give you any of the all of the content that we put out as far as comic book content and so on and so forth. Now we reach to the part of our episode where we talk about our backlog box. Now, in the backlog box, I'll talk about comics that I'm currently reading that's in my backlog, because yes, there are stacks of comics that I've been meaning to read, and slowly but surely I'm catching up. And guess what? With my backlog box, I do have comic book recommendations for you guys. Now, one of the recommendations I do have for you guys is Black Canary, best of the best, man. We are talking straight hands, okay? We talking Lady Shiva versus Black Canary, and man, this miniseries, it does not disappoint, man. If you want to see some hand-to-hand combat, you want to see some badass female fighting, yes, Black Canary, best of the best. Check that out. Listen, I hope you guys loved our video, man. Again, do not forget to hit that like and subscribe button and notification bell. Until next time, y'all. Peace.